there's this invisible brick wall that people have when they're procrastinating. They don't know why, because there's things you can be great at, you know how to do, you want to do, you desire to do, you can do, you're capable, you're competent, all these things, yet you won't do it. And I'm like, why won't we do that thing? What is that really going on?
You know, there's so many different ways for people to go. Be more intentional about like, hey, here's a massive menu of different things that you can choose. You have to think through like, okay, as I think about doing this one and taking the first step, does it bring me some anxiety, or do I feel like, oh no, I could totally do that and I could knock this out like this fast and it wouldn't take me long to start? I don't think that would take me long to finish.
And I can tell you right now, when I look at my life, it was the what and the who of when I've been the happiest. It's never been the money. No matter how much money I've made, if I'm doing the right what and I'm doing it with the right who, then I have a blast and I'm fulfilled and fun.
On episode 330 of the podcast, you will discover how to kick procrastination to the curb and start taking action towards your dreams. You're also going to learn the importance of finding your own unique path and not following someone else's blueprints. And you'll gain insight into the power of mindset and how shifting your perspective can lead to massive success. What's up, friend? Hey, I am Ryan Coral from Studio Sherpas, and this is the Grow Your Video Business podcast, the show for corporate and commercial filmmakers where I drink too much coffee. This is a show where we talk about the business of video production. My heartbeat for you is that you would be able to do this work forever, or at least as long as you are called into it, you're passionate about it, you're excited about it. But I want this to be a profitable pursuit for you, and I'm super glad that you are here. Before we jump into the episode, I would like to share with you my free 6-figure filmmaker workshop where I break down my best takeaways for growing my own 7-figure production business over the past 18 years. This is my gift to you for being a listener, for being here. You can get immediate access to this workshop by going to studiosherpas.com/workshop. Again, that URL is studiosherpas.com/workshop. Super pumped you're here. This is a great episode. Lots to unpack here with my friend Michael Gebben. So let's get after it. What's up, friends? Hey, welcome to another episode. Today, I've got with me an he's not old, but he's an old friend from the video production, from our video production days together, Michael Gebben. Michael, today, he describes himself as a creative. He's a coach and a speaker, and has worked with people like Tony Robbins, Richard Branson, and one of my favorites, Tim Ferriss. Michael, dude, good to see your face. I'm so glad that we're finally doing this today.
It's the right time, 2023. People
right.
need it. Appreciate you having me on, man. I'm excited to be here.
For sure. Well, dude, like I love our little history. I think we met at Viva or some video conference literally forever ago.
I believe we actually met originally on Video University in the comment section of that you know,
Video University. I forgot about that website.
Yeah, you had the Steadicam pilot or Steadicam whatever on, and you had that picture, and you were posting stuff. People were berating you and tearing you apart because I always say peers don't pay bills, but you know, they were out there, you know, taking charge and taking names. But and then we met at Viva, and then I filmed the wedding for you up in Michigan. I spoke to your group back in like 2010, 11. Kind of lost touch mostly after 2012, 2013, probably haven't connected as much. But yeah, we're all the way back to those good old wedding days. A lot of what your listeners probably don't want to film.
Right. Yes. Yeah. And a lot of people are there, you know, and some of those people are kind of dabbling in what would it look like to, you know, to kind of shift from working Saturdays and in the hustle and grind that is the wedding world, which is awesome. And I love it. And I always tell people if it was Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, I would do weddings for the rest of my life. They're just so fun. Yeah. I'm so good at them, and the pieces that we created. But, you know, as my family grew, as my dreams and aspirations for what I wanted to do in the world outside of just work, it was like, I can't, you know, Saturdays, they're just too precious, and having kids and doing this whole thing, it's just like, it's not what I want. So transitioning, and that's where, you know, a lot of us are kind of hanging out today, is like, how do we build this, you know, this corporate commercial filmmaking brand? So share a little bit about your journey. I know you have a lot of stuff to share with us. So I'm just going to hand it to you.
I know we have limited Yeah, I know we have limited time. I probably could end up talking the rest of the 50 minutes that we have here without you probably speaking a word, but as I told you before we started, people have heard plenty of like rags to riches. Here's where I was, here's where I am, here's what I did, here's what happens. And a lot of that doesn't, running through the ropes these years. I broke $100,000 in revenue 2 years out of high school in my video production company. I mean, this was 2008. If you remember Chris Simmons, freaking, Creative Insights and all that stuff that we even did. But, 2008, 2 years out of high school, I break $100,000. I don't have the know-how, the connections, the knowledge, the skills, the talent, the everything that I have today. And in 2010, I had a guy reach out because of all my video success and paid $1,500 to spend 2 days with me at my office. I didn't have to have cameras, technology, hard drives, drive anywhere, fly anywhere, nothing. And I just got to speak. And I was hooked. I was like, oh my gosh. So I started seeking out people that I could learn from to accelerate a journey in potentially speaking and coaching. And literally my first year breaking $100,000 in that was a decade after I started. Now, why does a person who had all the success, all these accolades, access to Tony Robbins, Tim Ferriss, Lewis Howes, Pat Flynn, all these people, how can you not know anything, do $100,000 2 years out of high school, no college, no formal education, no nothing, and then take that long to do something? Some would say that you probably suck. Well, my assertion with the people that I tend to work with even right now is they are extremely talented from the skill set of like making incredible videos. And there's people that have videos that are way less quality that are making way more money. And somebody said to me that was in one of these coaching program things, they're like, oh, we've got people in here, they're not, doing mindset work or anything, and they're doing really well. I'm like, dude, my biggest year was $400,000 in video. And I hadn't done any mindset work. I didn't have a mindset coach. I didn't do any counseling, therapy, none of that. The interesting thing is I had a childhood that didn't have much trauma, didn't have much challenge, difficulty or anything. So I always say I went bright-eyed, bushy-tailed into the future and just took all this action, and I didn't know what was right or wrong or this or that. And it worked. It worked in a lot of ways. But then I had death, and I had difficulty, and I had challenge, and I had brides, parents who were cops calling my parents, and like all sorts of things that happened. And what I realized is I thought I embodied MIA, imperfect action. And it ended up becoming that I was basically doing MOA, which I've been saying is massively overthinking my actions. And so in this journey of coaching, and this will tie into videographers, because you're going to hear some things I think today. I'm going to share some brain scans because recently I got brain scans from the Amen clinics for ADHD and different things that were going on because, my wife used to have a ton of migraines. Almost daily, chronically, like it was bad. And what a lot of people do is you take, which is what she did, she takes migraine pills and that mitigates the pain. But, pills don't teach skills. And so the reality is I'm a person who wants to get to the bottom of something. Like, okay, we can mask that for the rest of our life and just take these things, but why do you get them to begin with? Like, what is going on? And so lo and behold, it was a Frappuccino thing that she always drank from Starbucks. Get rid of that, get rid of a lot of sugar and different things. She almost never has migraines anymore. And so what I found in the coaching space is that there's a lot of one-size-fits-all advice being given out to people. There's a lot of generic advice. And if you imagine glasses for a second, I have them. Do you wear glasses or do you have 20/20 vision?
No, I definitely don't.
You do. So you have contacts.
Yes.
You have contacts right now. Okay. So anybody listening here, if you imagine right now that we don't know that glasses exist, okay, and you go off to get advice because you got headaches, there's this blurry vision, but you don't really know it's blurry vision. You describe problems and describe things, and you start getting solutions back from people. And they tell you, maybe you should go for a run. Maybe you should take a shower. Maybe you should work out. Maybe you should do some push-ups. Maybe you should meditate. Maybe you should get some new clothes. Maybe you should shave. Maybe you should do this, that, and the other thing. And you do all these things, which are helpful things, but at the end of the day, you still have headaches, and you still can't see that well. And so I became obsessed with why people joined expensive coaching programs that not were scams, that didn't not help people, that got great results for people, but yet they weren't getting any results for people that were a wrong fit because basically the person has 20/20 vision who sold the course to you, you don't. And so because you don't, you're trying to apply stuff that if I have glasses and you have glasses, I guarantee if we were in the same place right now and I handed you my glasses, you wouldn't be able to see well through them. It'd probably be too blurry or whatever. And that's what's happening when people are learning this kind of factory advice. And so I found that I got really lost and confused. I had the best people telling me what I should do. And yet I didn't have anybody telling me when I grew my video production company. I just did. And I just took action. I don't know if you've heard of Sarah Blakely. Sarah Blakely started Spanx. And that's for women. So a lot of listeners here, probably 90% people are males that listen to this, and some women. Women would know. But she started Spanx, $1 billion company. She got into Neiman Marcus in 3 months. People started asking her, how'd you do it? She said, what do you mean? I did this, this, and this. She goes, they said it takes 5 to 10 years to get into Neiman Marcus. She didn't know any of that. So she broke rules that she didn't know she was breaking because she didn't know. And now with the internet, we know too much. There's too much information. We're overwhelmed. And so what I found, I almost went bankrupt in 2016, shut down all this coaching stuff, and went back to pursuing video and shot my income way back up in 2017 and 18. But there was a calling inside to do this work. It was just magnetic. It was a pull. I couldn't explain it. Kicked it back up in 2019. COVID hit, lost about 30 grand in video jobs. And then finally that year, from March of 2020 on, I went full-time into coaching. 2021 was the year I broke $100,000 in coaching. But then when I went into it, I'm going to tie in even editing for people here in a second, like why they procrastinate editing when they love editing, or why they're procrastinating certain things. So we'll tie this in just a second here with these brain scans and bringing it to present day. But what happened was I in 2019, I said, you know what? I just want to coach. That's all I want to do. I know there's people I can help. I just want to show up and coach right now. I might not make as much money as if I ran my own brand and I did my own thing, but I'm so exhausted. I've done a lot of that. I've hired people. I've delegated. I've done all those things, but I'm so freaking exhausted. So I know I can open up doors, so I'll just go open up some doors. And the reality is, I honestly don't even know right now, based on certain numbers, what the hell I made last year, but it was the worst year I probably had since 2007. And it was very intentional because I was doing what was necessary to stay afloat. Even helped my wife 10x her Etsy business, which helped us a lot as well. But I was really digging deep. And then finally some stuff came up and with my clients and whatnot. Because certain clients, it was just like, boom, it was working. And other clients, I was seeing a reflection of myself. And what I'm going to call here is there's this invisible brick wall that people have when they're procrastinating. They don't know why, because there's things you can be great at, you know how to do, you want to do, you desire to do, you can do, you're capable, you're competent, all these things, yet you won't do it. And I'm like, why won't we do that thing? What is that really going on? And so finally, I ended up getting these brain scans. So if people want to pull that up, they can go to the mindmechanic.net/Studio Sherpa. And I have an S and a no S. So Studio Sherpas, but it's the mindmechanic.net/Studio Sherpas. And what you'll see there on that page is when you get to the brain scans, you're going to see that it says flowing and focusing. I don't know if you've had that there and you can glance at it, Ryan, but basically they did 2 scans over 2 days. And one day they had me just chill out, sit in a chair and just kind of stare off into the oblivion. They had some meditation music playing and that was it. And then they did that for 15 minutes. And then I took a scan. Then they had me do another thing where I stared at a white monitor and there was X's and O's and 1, 2, 3s and ABCs all coming up on the screen. I was supposed to hit the space bar when X's showed up, okay? So this was the concentration part of the scan. So then they scanned me, 15 minutes of that, and they scanned me, 2 separate days. So what you're seeing on those 2 scans, one that says flowing and one that says focusing. The flowing, you see a lot of red and a lot of white. The other one that says focusing is all blue, pretty much. There's no red, there's no white, hardly at all. So the flowing was me chilling out. The flowing is me right now. And the other one was me focusing or concentrating. Now what I'm seeing here in the patterns that I've studied in myself and my clients and when I thrived, when I barely survived, when I take action, when I don't take action, is that the one that says focusing, my brain is basically deactivated. Like it's literally not working properly. And so there's an invisible brick wall when I do activities. So I'm calling them BAAs or BDAs. BDA is brain deactivating activity and BAA is a brain activating activity. And so when I do what I'm doing right now, dude, I'm on fire. I feel like $1,000,000. This is great. I could go from interview to interview. I might get tired, but I will feel good. And so when you take taxes, or I'll bring in the editor. I'll bring in editing and writing for a second to compare this for people. So editing, when you ask people, why do you procrastinate? And you love editing. And they'll go, well, it's so hard to start. And I'm like, But why is it? So this is me getting to the bottom thing. Well, why in the heck is it hard to start? It's not like you're doing brain surgery at the beginning of editing. If there's these things that you have to do, organizing the footage, figuring things out, before you get to the creative part. So in that example, it's a brain deactivating activity first. So you've got to do things that basically your brain does not feel good when you do it. So it doesn't matter that you know how to do it, that you're good at doing it, that it's even easy to do. It's not like it's complicated work. It's more complicated to do the creative work than it is to necessarily do the first work. So now let me say writing. I can have, imagine you hit the button, you see the download button, right? We get these files when we're done, we can hit the download button. Anybody who's in video has hit the download button at some point in time, and then you see the file downloading, okay? So if we're on here and I wasn't limited on time and different things, I get a spark. I call it a download. I get on the computer and you give me an idea or something happens in our conversation, and I literally just let the download, take my fingers, get on the computer, and I start typing. And everything that's coming through me is just flowing out of me. That would be a brain activating activity. Super easy to do. It's not maybe easy to always get them, but I get them literally like probably 50% of the time right now. I keep track of them. And I have flow writing moments like that 50% of the time. So almost every other day, or sometimes 5 days in a row and not for a couple days. Now here's the thing. If I want to edit that, guess what? That's a brain deactivating activity. So now when I go to tweak the thing and reorganize it and restructure it and do all that, now I go scroll on my phone. Now I go talk to somebody. Now I go do something else because it doesn't feel good for my brain. And a lot of things are happening subconsciously. So what you've got to realize, though, is that there's people like my wife, where basically they have 20/20 brains. They have 20/20 vision brains. Like, meaning the scan you're seeing from me are more people with ADHD, people who are neurodivergent, people who are not neurotypical. Neurotypical would be the one that says flowing with just red in the back. That's your cerebellum. That's where the default for normal human beings is that's active all the time. So somebody like my wife might not like doing certain things with her business, but guess what? She never procrastinates. There's no invisible brick wall. She just sits in front of the computer like a machine every day and does those things. So it's different what's happening in her brain. So there's editors right now, like when you think of movies and different things, what do? They get like, I have a guy that I coached who's now done things for Netflix and HBO and whatever. He tried to run a whole production company for years, and he made 10 or 15 grand on the side trying to run these production company. That's what you're supposed to do. You got to scale. You got to do these things, and you can, but your life might be miserable forever doing it because you might be a fish and you're trying to fly in the sky. And if you don't get help from birds and you're a fish, then you'll lose, because these things they're not hard to do, but they're hard for your brain because there might be something different going on. And so what this guy did is finally, when I kept asking him, what would you do if you didn't need money? And he's like, I just want to have this home office with these monitors, and I really just want to edit, man. I just want to edit. And most people say, well, you just can't be an editor. So finally got fed up. And in 2019, he goes, dude, you've believed in me. I believe in me. I'm just going to be an editor. Just going after editing positions, whatever. Within 2 months, he quit his job after wanting to do that since 2012. And then he got an assistant editing job on a Netflix doc, High Score. He was the assistant editor on the Whitney Houston movie that just came out in theaters. And he's making $8,000 to $10,000 a month as an assistant editor on these series and stuff. And he's happy. I mean, the guy's just on fire and so excited. But think about this. He is doing the brain deactivating activity for the main editor. He goes through and does all the BS of going through hours and hours and hours and hours of takes and reorganizing and doing that, so he can hand it over to the flow state person who can just go, okay, let's rock and roll. Let's put this together. But a lot of normal people who have no budgets or no friends or no support or no help, they want to get to that flow state part. But the reality is they got to go through the other thing. But the problem is, if that's the first thing in your way, see, writing's reverse for me. If I get a download, I can write. But then if I want to make it better, good luck, right? And it's the same thing with same day edits. I think, did you do same day edits?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Now I get to let you. So that was my sweet spot. I did same day edits for weddings. It's what opened up, honestly, doors for Tim Ferriss and Tony Robbins and all these different people I worked with. But editing for me is a deactivating thing. It doesn't matter what form I'm doing it. Like sometimes I get a little bit flow state, but I also just don't like editing. Just like some people like Lord of the Rings and some people don't. We don't know why we like certain things. But editing as a whole, deactivating, but I also just don't really like editing. I edited all my same day edits, and I could do that because there was a lot of stimuli around me that got me to do it. All the people, the praise, all of that. But guess what happens when I get done with that wedding and don't do a same day edit? I got the cops being called on me 9 months later because their daughter doesn't have the freaking DVD, right? Because I wouldn't sit down, or you can get help, and I got help, but like, so it's been really fascinating. I'm gonna take a breath here in a second for everybody because I know we were like, we got like 25 minutes left, but so I just have become absolutely obsessed with figuring out for myself why. Again, you get on here and there's so many things. I could just gone through my story and here's where it is and prop myself up and make myself look like just crushing it. I mean, yeah, I've made millions in my career. I've been joking, millions made, millions lost, and millions in the making. But this kind of diagnosis around ADHD, my whole life makes sense. Like the brain scans, everything around that starts to see where when I crushed it, didn't procrastinate, had the most fun, the most fulfillment. And I can tell you right now, when I look at my life, it was the what and the who of when I've been the happiest. It's never been the money. No matter how much money I've made, if I'm doing the right what and I'm doing it with the right who, then I have a blast and I'm fulfilled and fun. I mean, I would rather do this right now than get paid $25,000 to go film a video in some other state to do something, right? And not get paid technically for this because my soul has been led to this work. And so I just fell out of love with video, but this ignites me. And so I've always been kind of following my curiosity, but I got really obsessed with why I got so stuck being a guy who had so much success, traveled all over the place, and won big, but then was paralyzed with inaction. And I thought, I'm the imperfect action guy. Like, action creates clarity. There's things you'll think you'll love, you'll love. There's things you think you'll hate, you'll hate. There's things you think you'll love, you'll hate. There's things you think you'll hate, you'll love. And so we've got to do to know. And one final thing I'll add here with this activating or deactivating. Sometimes it's fear first. You can't know if it's activating or deactivating until you actually take action and you're actually doing something. So the last month, I got back into wanting to do some stuff on YouTube, hiring some people and all this. Because last year, man, I felt like $1 million. I didn't make it much money last year, but I had one of the greatest years of just freedom, ease, felt peaceful, all these things. It was awesome. And then this year, I kicked back in some different things, getting some help. And in the last 6 weeks, I was dealing with an editor. I was dealing with an assistant. I'm dealing with some ad people and different things. And I started getting really irritable. I started getting really moody. I started getting all these things. I thought, what the hell's going on? And it's back to this because I was doing things I'm capable, I'm competent, I know how to do, I want to get done, yada, yada, yada. But my brain doesn't like it. Dude, I love spicy food, but spicy food hates me. I'm going to blow a hole through the wall if I eat, drink a lemonade and a bunch of hot wings, right? So that's what's happening. There's certain things that people love and they want to do, but their brain doesn't love them when they do it. And that's your intuition. Unfortunately, some people have great vision, some people don't. My brother has a great memory, I don't, but he didn't work hard to have a great memory any more than I work hard to forget things. Like I don't try to forget things. My brain just doesn't do it. Now I could practice and do a lot of things to become better, and some things are worth doing that. That's why I help people now. Like, I want to bring things out. I want messages like this. I want people to become mechanics of their own mind. I literally had Brandy, my wife, called me the mind mechanic in 2020 in the summer on a Wednesday. And I flipped out. I'm like, yes, that sounds fantastic. But I deleted the recently because I'm like, I'm not like the single, if you need help, you need Michael Gebben and you've got to hire me and I'm the only mind mechanic on earth that can work on you and help you out. I'm like, I'm a mind mechanic and I want people to be mind mechanics. We can have our cars worked on. They don't have to learn how to do that. There's a lot of things that's not really necessary to learn, but you carry you around with you. Everywhere you go, all day, every day. You can't carry a human or anything that will basically think for you yet. I mean, we won't get into that conversation today, but that's the thing. And so I really want people to be able to have things that isn't just these platitudes and quotes, which I've done plenty of through the years, because that's all great. But how many people listening have been told, just work harder, just do it harder. You just got to try. You just got to do it like Nike. And they're so frustrated because they know what to do, and what to do isn't the problem. There's something below the surface that people are not being told what that is or what's going on that's preventing them. It just frustrates the hell out of people to keep being, there's podcasts where people are screaming at people to just take action and just do it. But that is literally the equivalent of I need glasses and you're rich and famous and you tell me because you got 20/20 vision that I'm a moron for not wearing, for wanting to wear glasses. And that's what's happening to people every day is they need brain glasses for the brain vision. And they're being told by people who don't understand them, don't seek to understand them, don't want to get to know them. And most people don't know themselves very much. I mean, I have probably got a PhD level of, I had a therapist once on my calls going, you would have an A++ in my therapy class if you were taking it because you're doing all these, she starts naming these things. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't go to college. That's how do you think I succeeded in video? I just trial and error and testing and experimenting and exploring. So that's it. Mic drop. I'll just stop there. I can go on and on, but we got 10 minutes left. So I'll make sure, Ryan, it's his podcast. God dang.
Oh, am I still here? Oh, yeah. Oh, hey, guys.
Yeah, okay, there he is. There he is. Okay, good deal. Sorry, man. I had a lot to say. I want to get off my chest, if you can't tell.
Well, so I think part of what's fascinating is, having the brain scan, and it's super interesting, listening to you. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm thinking through my things, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's why I'm easily distracted when I tried this activity, and this takes me longer, and some of the stuff you push through, and it takes really long, but can get to the other side, and other things I'm like, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm ever going to be able to get over that thing, and so it makes sense as you kind of paint this picture of how our brains are so different. But having the scan isn't helpful in that, okay, well, what do I do with it? So, as we're listening, it's like, okay, so maybe I do resonate with what you're saying. And also my passion, my heart is in this video business and trying to grow it, not necessarily with employees or even with revenue, but I want to be more profitable. I want to keep being able to create, and there are some areas that I get stuck, whether it's starting to edit or reaching out to clients. It's like, oh gosh, I can't, it's going to take me 2 days to craft this email, and I talk to guys all the time, guys that I'm coaching, where it's like, well, yeah, I spent how many hours did you writing this proposal? Oh, it was like 2 days of writing the proposal. Oh my gosh, and how long you wrote this email to the client? Yeah, and it was like 6 hours to write this email to the client. And like, oh my gosh, if I'm that stuff takes me 15 minutes. So with this sort of new epiphany for us, it's like, okay, well, what do I do with if this is something that I still feel called to, but maybe not fully equipped to how do I get over this hump of just getting stuck?
Yeah.
And what step do I take?
Have you brought up Dan Sullivan before on the podcast? Dan Sullivan, Who Not How, or
I haven't brought him up, but he's been brought up by multiple guests that I've had.
Okay, so Dan Sullivan is who put me over the edge to get the brain scans from the Amen clinics, and he was talking to Dr. Amen, but he was also talking about different things. I followed him for a while, but people with ADHD, people who have this stuff going on in their brain, they're higher probability for divorce, bankruptcy. All makes sense to me. He was divorced once and bankrupt twice by 34. Happened to, by luck and chance, meet his wife, Babs, who basically took off everything we're talking about. So it was a who. It was a person. And I've talked about the Red C: reduce, eliminate, delegate, collaborate. So when he used to write books more or less by himself, he loved writing the book. He liked bringing out the book, the result of the book. But there was too much what I'm calling the BDAs, the brain deactivating activity. He doesn't call it that. I've never heard any of this. I just came up with these things, and in connecting the dots, it's making sense. But what he did is it would take him 2 years to write a book in 300 hours. He says this on podcasts. Now he's got people. Now, yes, this example, people cost money, and I can give some other examples here. But basically, now there's people around him, and he writes a book a quarter in 25 hours, and he loves it. And so that was a who. He knows what he loves to do. He knows what he calls unique ability and strategic coach. So unique ability for him is something that when you do it, you want to do it again. And you get better every time you do it. See, I had fear to speak in front of people way back in the day. I mean, it was anxiety ridden. I mean, I'd have heart failure to get in my school class and have to say my paper. But here's the thing. When I overcame that fear and started to do it more, I fell in love with it. And it fell in love with me, and it felt good. But there's been certain things, no matter how many hacks, no matter what I've been told, no matter what I read, no matter what I watch, I might want to do it. But it's this struggle that you're talking about, this I call it the invisible brick wall that's there. And so what I want to do with those kind of things is reduce the amount of, once you start being aware of this, you want to either eliminate them entirely, but if they have to be done, like editing, I mean, you can go through your whole life and continue to take 4 weeks to rev yourself up and then have the client pissed and then just do it and live your life in this chronic state of like stress of like, ADHD people, it's like now and not now. And basically, same day edit was like now, I have to get it done now. But after the same day edit, the only urgency I really had wasn't contracts, wasn't paper, wasn't whatever. It was the couple chewing me out. It was the couple going, where's our video? It's that like urgency through a negative creation. So a lot of the most successful entrepreneurs out there, the problem is they don't talk about this stuff in the big picture, but they are getting help. That's like that editor. Him trying to do all these things to grow the production company. It was almost a decade. I have so many stories like that of people who, I had a lady, she tried for 5 years in photography. Now, this isn't a talk to discourage people from being an entrepreneur or running their business. But, Tony Robbins had a thing, and take this any way you want it, but he's like, when you're like 0 to a couple years old, crapping yourself, that it's okay. Like it's normal. And maybe at the end of your age, that's kind of normal. But you probably seriously have a problem that would need to be looked into if you're doing that when you're 27 years old, right? So there's some people where I can look at my life through this lens and go, there have been things that for the last 18 years of my professional adult life in business that I have continually, no matter what I do, have the same issue with these same things. I've gone to the best coaches. I spent $5,000 for 2 hours with a guy down in Arizona, the ultimate coach. So I found that we've got to surrender at times. And this lady with the photography, 5 years, dabbled, didn't have much success, saw me speak somewhere, did a one-on-one day with me. At the end of the day, she was crying because she wanted to do video. She's like, I'm going to accelerate this by learning from someone rather than figure it out myself. At the end of the day, the tears were because she realized, I don't want to do this. And then she ended up becoming a co-owner in a CrossFit gym. She's never been happier. And so I think she realized, I just want to do it for fun on the side. And I'm obsessed. I think as well, when I listened to a few interviews today, like you happen to be a lucky one who fell more in love with business and marketing and all that. But there's a lot of people, that are listening right now. They're actually, it's only a necessity.
Yeah.
It's only a have to that they are learning about business. If they could get all the money in the world, they would not spend one single second listening to a business podcast ever again because they don't want to do that. They want to listen to the camera, the Ari, the this, the that, the whatever. And that's a serious problem for them growing their video business because you can run through brick walls and do all these things, but you'll have that cycle of life, which is you do a lot because you're running out of money and you get work and then you're busy for 6 months and then all of a sudden the work dries up and then you're like, oh shit, but I'm good for a little bit. And then you're like, oh crap, I'm running out of work. And then boom, you do a bunch to get the work and all you do is stay stagnant and maintain rather than obtain or do more. And so I'm really obsessed with what are people obsessed with and what you're really actually truly from the heart and soul. Like all this stuff I've done last year, I mean, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars to learn about myself, but not just for myself and my family, because I've chosen a profession that I want to serve and help people on a deep level. And I did the same in video. Like I did so many same day edits for years for free when my peers and everybody else said, don't do the same day edit for free. You're taking advantage of the clients and the industry and you're lowering the value and all this BS. But I could not convince people to pay me for it. It's because I didn't freaking believe that it was worth something. When they said, well, why would we want to do a same day edit? And I'd be like, well, it's good and maybe this and that. Finally, when couples who had had their DVD for 6+ months told me they hadn't watched the other 12 videos the whole time they had them, and they're like, well, we watched that same day edit. Like we've watched it like 50 times. Like we watched it last night. I'm like, what about those other videos though? In my mind, the ones I procrastinated on and got all this and that. Yeah, we haven't looked at those yet, but I mean, maybe we should do that. And finally I said, screw it. Like I love the same day edit. My clients love the same day edit. So when people would ask me the same question, my work was the same. I was selling $3,500 same day edits for 12 videos. Same day edits were mostly free. And that took me 50 to 100 hours. Then what I do? Hey, Michael, well, why would we want to do same day edits? Wouldn't it be better if you had more time? Look, I can't speak for other people. I don't know if they need 2 weeks, 2 months, or 2 years to make a great video. But when I do a same day edit, it is the best video I make. My business, that's the year we did 275,000. The next year I did almost 400,000 because I had this conviction around what I did best, not what I was supposed to do or people thought I should do or was the air quote right thing to do. But thank God I followed my heart and intuition and kept doing those same day edits when everybody told me I shouldn't when they don't pay me. And I just surprised them and did it anyways because I knew it lit me up. And a lot of people have lost that fire because the internet is so confusing with so many opinions. There's going to be somebody today that says run ads and it's the only way to grow a business. Somebody else is going to tell you referrals is the best way to, I mean, they've listened to your podcast. You've given them every freaking procrastination tool known to man to do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that, do this, do that, you know, and not you personally, I'm being playful, but like, it's not your fault and we're trying to help. But a lot of people then can't decipher what's that right thing for them. And that's what happened to me. A guy who did so well so fast and then got lost in outer space for a long time. And I feel in the last 2 years that I'm alive again, you know? So anywho.
Well, dude, I love that. You know, even, you know, thinking through my show, what I'm drawn to in my business, you know, even, at some point I realized like, man, I love video production, but I really love the business, man. And like let me talk to any business owner, and that's where I light up, because when we just start talking about, oh, what do you do in the market, and what about sales, and what about and have you read this book, and it's like it's just all the things. Like, so I get so excited about it, deciphering. You know, there's so many different ways for people to go, and I made a note for myself here to be more intentional about like, hey, here's a massive menu of different things that you can choose. You have to think through like, okay, as I think about doing this one and taking the first step, does it bring me some anxiety, or do I feel like, oh no, I could totally do that. And I could knock this out like this fast, and it wouldn't take me long to start. And it probably shouldn't. I haven't done it yet, but I don't think that would take me long to finish. So, and then here's the other thing is like, out of all the things that we talk about, there's probably, if you just picked one thing to market your business or to let your business become more efficient, if you just pick one thing, that one thing, and you double down on it, could make all the difference, right? So we're almost at time here. I would love to know if there's a takeaway, if there is an action step that just where you say, okay, you've got all of this in front of you and something isn't lighting you up or something's got you stuck. What's your advice or your encouragement for that person?
Well, one of the hardest things to do at times, but it was the greatest thing that I did, is slow down to speed up. And so, you know, if you're driving 150 miles an hour, it's hard to enjoy the scenery. And so a lot of people are actually pushing so hard. My heart and soul, everything was into coaching. And yet I was getting deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. And like I said, I had all these people that I was in front of that told me, don't pay my credit cards ever again or go bankrupt. I had one human being who said, I got out of $3 million in debt in a couple of years. And this was in 2016. And I was getting married and turning 30. And I'm like, I'm making a decision to get married. And financially, this stuff isn't working out right now. So against my truest desire and passion, I went where I happen to be self-employed, had a whole progression. If you haven't had success yet, this might be a form of a job or something, right? Which will tell you whether you're really designed for the entrepreneurship or not. I mean, there's a lot more to get into, but like, it's the greatest thing I did because I got to just relax a little bit. It was a sweet spot in video. I just did my sweet spot. Job started kicking back in and money went back up. I showed my wife I'm safe, I'm secure, we'll take care of her. But I kept playing around with these things. And so you hear all these journeys. You're getting to hear one right now where I'm not coming to you after I've figured everything out now. And I'm like, oh my God, and in the last 12 months, I did $12 million because I figured this out. It's like, and that's when you hear a lot of people talk is after they've cracked all the nuts. But for me, I mean, I've done that back in the past, but I didn't crack anything. I was just doing. And so if you've been stuck, I mean, if you just started a production company, 3 months ago, there's a different conversation. But if you've been at this for 2, 3, 5, 8 years, and you are still struggling with it, then we need to slow down a little bit and really reflect on what might be going on. Might I be better? I've had people whose mental health has increased 10x because they did just choose to take the part they love the most and figure out how they can plug that into somebody else's system. Because the system that could make more money is making them hardly nothing. And the thing that they love the most, which might have less potential, is also barely making them any money because they're stuck tug-of-warring in this indecision of like trying to run the whole company and get excited about business, even though I don't love it, but I got to do it because it's a necessary evil. It's hard to fall in love on purpose with things. We can get into it, but like not right now, obviously. But so slow down to speed up. I've done it a couple times, and yeah, I mean, your mental health is more important because I've had too much death recently, and a lot of these people, it's because they're chronically stressed. They get cancer. Cancer doesn't live in a body that is at ease overall. But when you're, riddled with stress and anxiety and worry and frustration 24/7, 365, because you can't get things to work, and you got to pay your bills, and you got to take care of your family, like that's when people get sick. That's when people are getting cancers. That's when these things are happening. So I just want people to be more at ease, find some relief and find some peace. Right now, you're going to have ahas through this, but just because you get an aha, there's still work ahead. I wish there was a light switch, Ryan. I do. I've been looking for it everywhere. But there's pictures on that link I sent. You see grass. It says 6 days in, and there's barely little pops of the grass coming out of the ground. And it says 16 days in, and it's fully green. A lot of us have been doing things where we're planting seeds, but we don't know what we're planting, where we're planting, and if ever the things will blossom. Sometimes you planted seeds, and you go to a different freaking thing, and the grass comes up, but you don't even know it because you've left it. And so for me, it's just like slow down and really take inventory. But anyways, I can go on. There's a lot to say. I know we're limited here, man.
So good, dude.
But slow down is a good piece of advice.
I think that's really good. I think finding a quiet place and just even asking the question, like, what's working in my business, what's not, what's working for me personally, what's not, and then digging in a little bit more. Okay, well, why might that not be working? And then even bringing other people alongside of you, whether that's hiring a coach or it's asking a spouse or a best friend. We're not meant to be alone, man. And COVID has caused too many people to work in isolation. And even my wife and I, this is such a good thing. But anyways, I got 1 minute. I'll say this story. I wanted to be home more with my wife. I didn't want to travel anymore. I used to talk nothing about it. I don't want to travel. I don't want to do video. When I flipped the script to I want to stay home and I want to coach, I did it within a year. That's shifting focus, just like a lens on a camera. What you're focused on, you'll get more of. You focus more on lack. You focus more on negativity. You focus more on what's not working. You'll keep getting more and more of that. Once I finally had that happen, and I'm home with my wife all the time, I barely travel, there's so many positives. But because I don't no longer, my wife stays at home as well. She used to work. So during the day, I worked with people who filled my soul up with the stuff I'm passionate about, like business. My wife's not interested in business. And if I try to berate her with business talk, it hurts our relationship big time. Yeah. And so we've talked about this recently because I'm not fueling my soul enough with that. At times I'm going right to her because she's right there and I can just see her glaze over and then I'm like defeated. And so she goes, I know you can get that somewhere else. You don't have to get it from me. And I knew marrying her that it wasn't there, but I was getting it somewhere else before we got married. Afterwards, now I'm not getting that, but I get everything else from my wife that I love, but I can't expect that from her and convert her. She does a business. She's not business minded. She just 10X. I mean, she went from $5,000, almost $60,000. And I said, if I wasn't there to do that for you, would you have obsessed and learned about business or just slowly grew? She goes, I would have just slowly grew because I have no desire to learn any of these things. And that's what a lot of creatives are doing. And anyways, so. Awesome. Brother, how can people follow along with all the cool stuff that you got going on? Yeah, man, I'm here to help. If people want to work with me, they can, and they can reach out. I work in a real creative way, but you can go to themindmechanic.net/Studio Sherpas. I'm giving my 2 audiobooks, which on my website cost some money. You get those for free as a listener. The pictures of the scans, some of the things I talked about, the grass today, my YouTube channel, all that will link up there. So themindmechanic.net/Studio Sherpas, and reach out. I'm an easygoing person. I usually give people a little test drive. I'm not a hard sell because if I can't help you, I can't help you, but I'll do my best to help you. So. Awesome. Thanks for your time today, Michael. I really appreciate it. It's super fun catching up. All right, my friend, you made it to the end. If you want to access the show notes and find the links and all the other things that Michael and I talked about, you can do that at studiosherpas.com/330. If you had a takeaway, something that stood out to you from this episode, let me know. You can leave a comment if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, or you can shoot me if you have a question or something that you just want to share with me. If you want to encourage me, if you like this show, if you've got some helpful feedback, feel free to shoot me an email. My email address is ryan@studiosherpas.com. And don't forget about that free workshop. It's the 6-figure filmmaker workshop where I just try to give you the most things that I've learned over the last 18 years that can be actionable if you're running a corporate or commercial filmmaking business, how you can charge what you're worth and really do more of the kind of work that you want to and feel like an owner, feel like a CEO, and not just a freelancer, not somebody that is just figuring this out. But if you want a blueprint and you want some actionable steps, go grab that workshop. It's totally free. My gift for you, studiosherpas.com/workshop. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Let me know if there's anything I can do for you. you. I appreciate you, my filmmaker friend, and I will talk to you on next week's episode. All right, see ya.